world where Africans have lost their roots, it has become of vital importance to document our ways. In an effort to reverse the brainwashing of the past, where we were made to believe our ways are demonic, we are pressed to create dignified and respectful platforms to unpack our spiritual ways. Moya Ulight, Moya Upright, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for all your support. Please like, subscribe, do the things. Guys, we've now got Moya hikes every first and last Sunday of the month at Clip Revier. So check out our pages on Twitter and on Facebook to get the details, and please join us so that the Moya community can grow. As you saw, this episode is sponsored. It's from Hebrews to Negroes. So quite spicy. It's a new film that's just come out. We've got Ronald Dalton JR, who's going to unpack. He's the producer of the film. He's an author and a producer. It seems to be having a lot of drama, a lot of spice, a lot of policing. So I'm even worried about this podcast, but please, guys, do join us. Let's sit down. Let's unpack what this film is about and why it's causing so much drama in South Africa. Ronald, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you
glad to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. So, I don't want to get right into the meat. Yeah. I want the viewers to first get to know you a little bit. Before I even start at you, it's such a relief to have people like you, because all along we thought all the African Americans were as ignorant as the ones we're seeing on TV. So, we didn't realize that there was a whole other community that is speaking Black consciousness, that is speaking African unity, that is speaking to our story. So I just want us to unpack also that, and why we're only seeing the chicken heads, and where you come in and where you're from. And yeah, perhaps let's start with you and then how it fits into why we're seeing that.
So first, I'm a father, husband. I have 8 children.
Oh.
And I have a career in physician assistant studies. It's a bachelor's and a master's degree, kind of similar to a doctor in America. And I've been practicing for over 18 years, and got into the, I won't say business, but writing books, making movies, educating people, doing conferences and workshops and seminars. And last year, I quit my job to come to South Africa and bring this message here, because the movies and the books they're a big thing in America. Mm. And even though the movie and the books have been around and selling on Amazon since 2015, it's time for Africa to get this information. And in America, we have the conscious community. We have all different types of factions, such as the 5 Percenters, the Nation of Islam, the Kemetic community that deals with Egyptology, and trying to identify African Americans as descendants of the Egyptians. And you have the Black Lives Matter movement. You have the FBA, which is the Foundation of Black Americans. You have the ADOS, which is the American Descendants of Slavery. You have the Moors. You have a lot of different groups. And one of the groups that we also have is the Hebrew Israelite groups that's been in America, teaching that Black people are the descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And they have gotten a negative stigma in America simply because we don't accept the white Jesus narrative, and that the whole Bible is white, and that, who are we in the Bible? We don't have an identity. We let other nations tell us who we are and try to instill in us, how we're supposed to behave and act, and give us what we think in America is our culture. So, there is a conscious community, but unfortunately, Black people in America, they're still fragmented. So, you have the Christian church, you have the Nation of Islam, you got these guys that enter into Egyptian spirituality and religion, and we're all at the end of the day searching for our identity and who can we align with that can bring about change to the Black community. And back in the day, you had Pan-Africanism, Marcus Garvey, you had the Civil Rights Movement with MLK, Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Huey Newton, and W.E. Du Bois and Booker T. Washington. But now, in this time that we're living in, there's a lot of people that is trying to find out who they are. So you even have Black people in America that are now teaching that we are indigenous to the Americas, and we never came here on slave ships. We never came from Africa. That we are not Africans. So let's just get rid of that term, African Americans. There's people actually believing right now that we in America is surrounded by water, that we've always been here. But, common sense tells you that in order to get to a land that's surrounded by water, you either have to fly, and we don't have wings, you have to swim, and nobody's going to swim from Africa to the Atlantic to America, or you have to come on a boat. Mm-hmm. You cannot walk from Russia or China or Africa or the Caribbean to America. You have to get there somehow. But Black people today in America, they're now believing that they have been in America for thousands of years.
The foundational Americans.
Yes. And they reject Africa. They reject the struggle that is going on in Haiti and Cuba and the Bahamas and Jamaica and the African struggle. They don't want to talk about that because they're like, we're not them. So it's a lot of confusion.
What would cause that? Is that self-hate, or what do you think would cause you to completely disregard what you look like?
It's self-hate, because I'm in South Africa and I see people here that look just like people in America. Yeah. Like I can see your twin, in America. And we share a lot in common that people don't know, but at the end of the day, like I said before, I said, get your DNA test. Get your DNA test. And when you get your DNA test and it says, Congo, Cameroon, Gabon, Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, Gambia, Angola, then how you gonna disregard your DNA? Your DNA that's the same as their DNA. So your DNA is the same as their DNA, but you're saying that you're not from Africa.
You're better than them.
Yeah. It's we're not using critical thinking and logic. And people don't like to talk about DNA tests. They say, oh, the white man created the DNA test. The white man created science. It's of the devil. Don't use it. But we go to the doctor. We get surgery. We study physics and chemistry and organic chemistry and microbiology and pharmacy. And then we say that getting a DNA test and it shows that your DNA connects to the Igbo tribe in Nigeria, we say, no, that's not true. We are from America. We are Indians. We are Cherokee. We are Choctaw. We are Chippewa. We are Navajo. And it's sad because the generation now are teaching this to their children. And their children are going to grow up saying that they're an Indian and they're not connected to Africa. But at the same token, in America, we want reparations. They want reparations from slavery, but then people say that slavery didn't happen and that we were already here and it was a reverse slavery. So it's all types of confusion, and my message is different in regards to what I teach. And I think because what I teach also involves coming back to Africa and connecting our roots back to Africa to get to the final step in our identity, I think that is the most dangerous thing that the powers that be do not want to come out. And so, in my opinion, this is the most important thing in the world that they may not admit to, but it is, and they used tactics such as shadow banning and gatekeeping and censorship and other methods to suppress this information and truth and knowledge from coming out to the people.
How was your what politicized you, like, as you were growing up? Because there is a point where, where you're just like, wait, no, man.
So growing up in the Christian church, my dad was a pastor, and around 2010, I was, working in the ER in the hospital.
How old were you then? Sorry.
In my 20s.
Okay.
And I was working in the inner city of Detroit at a level 1 hospital, trauma hospital. So this hospital was primarily all black people, 1 million black people in the city. And, we would see all the stabbings, the shootings, the suicides, the drug overdose, the economic problems, the social problems, all the diseases, diabetes, heart disease, stroke, cancer. We saw it all in this hospital. And the hospital was always packed. People waiting outside, people waiting in the hallway. The ambulances coming in left and right with people with all types of violent traumas to their body. And working in a hospital in the inner city of Detroit, I would always wonder, in Detroit we have churches on every corner. We have liquor stores on every corner. We have marijuana dispensaries on every corner that people can go in and get marijuana legally with a card, and it's owned by the Arabs or any other nation. And we didn't own any businesses in the inner city. All the inner city businesses are owned by other nations. But in the inner city, it's nothing but poverty and destruction and oppression and hopelessness. And the education system is way different than what you see in the suburbs. And so going to church for years and decades, and black people are spiritual people, and we go to church faithfully on Sundays, Wednesdays, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We go to church and we pray, we fast, we praise God. And I said, why are we so destroyed in our community? And I'm seeing it on the streets. I'm seeing it in the juvenile centers, the nursing homes. I'm seeing it in the psychiatric centers, and I'm seeing it in the hospital. And when I was in church one day in the second service, I sat down and I opened up as a Bible that was in the pew, and I just grabbed it. I opened it up, and it was on Deuteronomy 28. And I read Deuteronomy 28. And Deuteronomy 28 is about the blessings of Israel and the curses of Israel. So in the beginning, it tells you the blessings of Israel or the Israelites if they keep God's commandments. We know that, the 10 commandments: do not lie, do not steal, do not commit murder, do not commit adultery, honor your mother and parents, keep the Sabbath holy, all these different things. Worship one God, all this stuff. But it said in the last 16 to 68 verses, what the curses of Israel is if the children of Israel disobeyed God and they went into idolatry worship. They started worshiping other gods. They started, consulting with the ancestors and trying to get answers from them from in the grave, like what King Saul did with Samuel and the witch of Endor, and all the things that the Bible says we're not supposed to do, such as defrauding your neighbor, like cheating your neighbor out of his wages for the day, or stealing from him, or lying to him, backstabbing him. All these things the Israelites were not supposed to do. And if they didn't do this, then they broke the law. And if they broke the law, then all these curses should be on the people of Israel and their descendants for generations. And in the curses of Israel, it said that the other nations will be the head, we will be the tail. They'll be in the front, we will be at the back. They will lend to us, we won't lend to them. We will work for them, they won't work for us. Like we would have land, we would have livestock, we would have mineral resources, and another nation would benefit from that. And we would not benefit at all. We would have children, sons and daughters, and our sons and daughters would be taken into captivity by another nation, and we wouldn't be able to do anything. We would just cry and be mad. It said that we would have diseases. It said that we would have a wife and we would leave her, and we will leave her and the kids, like divorce. But it said that we would have an evil eye towards each other, and an evil eye, a man would have an evil eye towards his brother, husband have an evil eye towards his wife would have an evil eye towards her husband, and so many other things. And it even said at the end, it said that, and I will bring thee into Egypt again in ships. In Egypt, in the Hebrew language, means bondage. It's composed of two words. The Hebrew word for Egypt is Mitzrayim, Mitzrayim, and it's composed of a root word and another word, which in the Hebrew, it means to bind, to tie up, to put somebody in a cramped position. And it also means to be in a difficult situation, dire straits, extreme difficulty, and oppression. So the very word in Hebrew that means Egypt, not the English word Egypt, but the Hebrew word Egypt, basically tells the story of the first captivity that the children of Israel had when they were under the oppression of the Egyptians, and then Moses led them out of Egypt, the house of bondage. But the scripture says that we will be in another bondage situation, and we will be sent as slaves to another nation, and nobody will be able to clear our payment and redeem us. Because in those days, somebody could redeem a slave if they had the money to pay the slave master and say, hey, I want to clear this slave from being a slave and make him free. How much do I have to pay you to make him free? And if they said, $100, and you say, here's $100, give me a slave. But the Bible says that in America and in the Caribbean, when we will be on slave plantations, that nobody will come to make us free by payment. And when I read the curses of Israel, I said, this is talking about us, black people. This is not talking about the people that's in modern day Israel that we know in the Bible, in the church. And we think in our head like, okay, Jesus is white, the Jews are white, they're God's chosen people, they're the Israelites, but they're not going through the curses of Israel. And the curses of Israel, it even states in Daniel chapter 9 that all Israel has transgressed the law. Therefore, the curses are upon us. It says this. So the Israelites are supposed to go through the curses of Israel for a long time. And when I read this, I was conflicted, and I asked my dad, he's a pastor, and other pastors. I said, I think we are the real Jews, real Israelites, and what do you think about this? And they said, no, Ryan, Jesus is white. The angels were white. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they're white. Noah, they were all white. What are you talking about? And I said, well, then who are we? Oh, that's not important. Jesus does not care about skin color. We're all saved through the blood of Jesus Christ. Do not worry about who we are, because no matter who we are, which is not important, we still can be saved through Christ. And I said, but the Greeks, because in America they have Greeks, they have Italians, they have Indians, Chinese. I said, well, they all know who they are. They have a language. They know where they come from. They have a history, culture. I said, but how come we don't know who we are in the Bible or even now? Oh, it's not important. And I found a problem with that. And so I prayed to God, and I said, can you please show me the truth? Because I'm reading the Bible, and the stories and the things I'm reading, it seems like it's talking about us. Even though I'm seeing what, people are showing us on TV and in movies. You look at slave movies, you look at movies about like The Passion of the Christ and with Mel Gibson, and you see, of course, that Jesus is white. All the Jews are white, the Pharisees are white, the Romans are white. And I just was like, no, I don't believe this. I need God to show me the truth. And this is when, things started happening, and I got led on a journey of research and really uncovering the things that the oppressors and the colonizers and those that are in charge of the three Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, have uncovered and hidden for so many years, because they don't want us to know this. They don't want us to connect our identity to the children of Israel, because once you can control the narrative by colonization, and now you're teaching the people in Africa, the Caribbean, America, history from your lens, and not the true history, then you can kind of like, kind of erase someone's identity and their history. Hopefully they don't forget it, because you do have the elders and the ancestors and the grandparents that can still retain some of this information and tell these things. But when we look at the internet and we look at the library, a lot of times history in Africa, the Ashanti Kingdom, the Kingdom of the Congo, these other kingdoms that they had in Mali and Senegal, Gambia, Shaka Zulu, a lot of these histories that we're being told are being told to us from a European lens. And the history usually stops around the 1300s to the 1400s. So if you try to go back farther to like 500 AD, 700 AD, 100 AD, or even 1000 BC, you're not going to find any history. And I find that to be strange that you have, so, say for instance, the kingdom of the Congo, and the history starts at the 1300s. So where were the people that was in the Congo in Angola before they got invaded by the Portuguese and Belgium and all these other nations? They obviously had to exist. They were there. They didn't just all of a sudden just poof, this existed in Central Africa. So why are we starting the history of the Kingdom of the Congo from the 1300s and nothing's going back 1,000 years? And so I doing the research and compiling this information for 10 years has now led to the movies and books, which are now controversial, and it's opening up doors in terms of my generation and the youth understanding who they really are, because identity is important. If you don't know who you are, then how are you going to know where you're going and what your destiny is?
So, there's always conversation and debates around Christianity, and how can you be Black conscious and be a Christian when we know like the history of the Conference of Nicaea and all that stuff. So you wanna?
Yeah. So see, the thing is, people have to understand that the history of the Bantu people, and even the Israelites, had to have been passed down orally first, because the people that practiced Israelite or customs of the Hebrews, they had to have done this for generations upon generations. And it was only until the Greeks and the Romans got a hold of, they came into Africa, that they decided that they were going to translate, transliterate, and authorize what today we call the Old Testament. And then you had later the New Testament. And they made it a point to control these books. But they know that, for instance, I was working in a nursing home, and I was talking to a lady, a Cameroonian lady. And I said, what tribe are you? And she said, I'm Bamaleke. That's one of the largest tribes in Cameroon. And I said, are you a Christian? And she said, yes. And she said, I'm a Christian, right? And I said, you go to church? She says, yes, on Sunday. And I said, okay, I said, do you circumcise back in Cameroon the boys that were born? And she says, yes, they're circumcised. And I said, the same day they're born? And she says, no, on the 8th day. And I said, why on the 8th day? And she says, it's a tradition we've been doing for thousands of years. I said, do Christians teach you this? She says, no, we've been doing this before the white man even came into Cameroon. And I said, when do you name your children? On the same day you're born? She says, no, we named a child on the 8th day. And I said, why do you do this? And she says, that's a tradition we've been doing. And I said, well, that's a Hebrew tradition. And she says, really? And I said, yes. And I showed her in the Bible. And she said, and I said, are you sure that you do this? And she says, yes. And she called another friend that was Cameroonian, and she came down the corner and they were speaking in French. And then she asked the girl in English, what day do we circumcise our boys? And she said, on the 8th day. And I said, she said, when do we name our children? And she says, on the 8th day. And she said, did the white man teach us this? And she says, no. And I said, So then I asked her some other questions. And I said, everything you're telling me if the white man didn't teach you this, why is it in the Bible? It's in the Torah. And she says, I don't know. And I started telling her, I said, well, Jesus was not white, he was black. The Jews were not white, they were black. And knowing a lot of people from Africa, when I was in Ghana, I had an Uber driver, and he was from the Krobo tribe, which is cousins to the Gadangme tribe in Accra on the eastern part of Ghana. And he didn't know who I was. And I said, sir, I said, when children have when people have babies, do you circumcise? And this is a complete stranger. He don't know who I am. And he said, yeah, we circumcise. I said, you do it on the same day? And he said, no. I said, when you do it? He said, we wait 7 days. I said, so on the 8th day? He said, yes. I said, do you name your children the same day they're born? He said, no. I said, when you do it? He said, we wait 7 days. I said, on the 8th day? He said, yes. And I said, where do you get this from? He said, it's our tradition. I said, did the white man tell you this? He said, no. And being in Ghana and talking to the Ebes and the Ashantis and the guys, they were basically telling me, I was asking questions about their traditions and customs. They were telling me things that I said, this is in Leviticus, this is in Deuteronomy, this is here. And they were like, really? And I said, yeah. And things that the Israelites would do, for instance, if you wanted to give a heave offering or a peace offering to the priest, you would take the flank of the goat's right shoulder and you would give it to the priest or the diviner or the medicine man or the voodoo guy. And they still do this in Ghana. I talked to a man in Nigeria from the Isoko and Ishan tribe, and he said that when he was in Mississippi with his uncles, he said he never understood why they would get a goat and they would put their hand on top of the goat and they would say these words. They were casting their sins onto the goat. And then he said they would either do two things. They would either kill the goat or they would let the goat roam free into the field, just let it go. And he said it wasn't until he started reading the Bible and understanding his identity that he said, this is called the scapegoat sacrifice. This is in the Bible. The Israelites did this. And he said that he asked his uncles, how long have we been doing this? And he said for thousands of years before the white man even got here. So all throughout Africa, West Africa, the Congo, East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, Angola, down to South Africa, being here, I've sat in Uber cars and asked people Zulu, Swazi, Soto, Tswana, Kosa, Petty, Venda, different tribes. I would ask them questions, and they don't know. I'm just an Uber guy. I'm just a customer. They don't know who I am. They just know I'm an American, and I'm asking these questions, and they are basically telling me everything that's in the Bible, down to the T. And they're like, "Huh, really?" And I say, "Yeah, it's right here." And I know that Christianity is strong in sub-Saharan Africa, but I would tell people, I said, "How is it that I could show you the Hebrew in your language, the Egyptian in your language, the traditions and customs that are in the Bible that you guys are doing right now, and we don't know who we are, but other nations that are not Bantu, they even say that you guys are foreigners to this area. You guys came here from another area, from the north. You guys were once in Egypt, but you're not from Egypt. You guys are not Somalian. You guys are not, from these areas, but you guys came here, and in their books, in their history and literature, they say that we are the children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the real Jews. And so Christianity has been whitenized. A lot of times we look at the Bible, we look at it in a European aspect lens because it kind of reads like that, and you don't see any African words in there. And they've actually altered a lot of things. But when you really look at it, you have to ask yourself, you can't have the New Testament without the Old Testament. And why in the Old Testament the Israelites are writing about lions, leopards, zebras, which is the wild ass, and the wild bull is the African buffalo. Why is it talking about ostriches and hyenas and the wild and the African lion, which is in Ethiopia. It's talking about the pelican. It's talking about the rhinoceros, which in the English Bible is unicorn. It's talking about so many animals today that are in Africa, but we don't connect the Bible to Africa because we know that the rhinoceros is not indigenous to America. There's no rhinoceroses in Israel. There's no elephants in Israel, but yet the elephant tusk and the elephants is in the Bible. The lions and the leopards in the Bible. The wild ass or the zebra is in the Bible. It's in Africa. So there's a lot of things that we don't really connect with because the Bible has been translated to European languages, and we read it and we look at all the words, and we look at the TV, we go to church, we see white Jesus, the pastor's telling us that these are the Jews, white Jesus is white, and we're Gentiles, or we're Egyptians, or Canaanites, or Cushites, or they just say we're just Africans. And I always say to people, I say, is there a man in the Bible named Africa that had children called Africans? And they're gonna say no. Was in a man in the Bible named Nigerians, and he had children called Nigerians? No. Is there a man in the Bible named Bantu, and he had children called the Bantus? No. So what is our true identity? Because when you look at the Bible is about ancestry and lineage. A lineage is people that descend from a common ancestor, and an ancestor is somebody from whom a people have one direct descendant, like a forefather. A forefather is somebody that from this man came a group of people. And that group of people, over time, they can trace their lineage and ancestry through one ancestor. And one of the things that's very clear in West Africa, South Africa, Central Africa, and East Africa is that we all share a DNA haplogroup, which is from the Y chromosome, that only a man can pass down to his son. Only a man can pass down the Y chromosome, sex chromosome, to his son, because women don't have the Y chromosome. So if I have a certain DNA haplogroup, which is like a letter and number, and he has it. People in Haiti have it. Cuba, Bahamas, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, America, Brazil, South Africa, East Africa, Central Africa, West Africa, and we all have the same sex chromosome DNA haplogroup. That means that we are all the same people, regardless of what language we speak, what tribe or clan we affiliate with, what country we rep. And at the end of the day, we can see the trends and the similarities on all these people groups that we may label Bantu or Niger-Congo speaking people or Negro people, how all interrelates and interconnects to the people that the Bible is about, which is the Hebrew Israelites, the children of Israel. So I tell people, you don't have to believe in the New Testament and Christ, and all what Christianity teaches, but at the end of the day, you cannot deny your ancestry and your lineage. And your ancestry and your lineage goes further than the word Bantu, because Bantu means the people or people, and the word Muntu means person. And God made man in his own image or likeness. God made man in his own image and likeness. And the Hebrew word for person or likeness or similitude is Dumut, Muntu, Bantu. And so there's a similarity between the Bantu people and their connection to the ancient Hebrew. And this can be proven if we simply trace back our language, our dialects that come from Central Africa, such as the Congo, and other areas, and then tracing that dialect and language farther back 4,000 years. Because at the end of the day, over time, we have developed dialects. But in our dialect and our languages that we have, just like the Nguni languages are similar, Zulu, Swati, Xhosa is similar. But then you can go to Kikongo, and you can kind of hear some similarities between the Nguni languages and the Kikongo languages, or Shona and the Kikongo languages, or the Kikongo languages in Swahili. But at the end of the day, one thing that I have found out and I researched is that the way that ancient Hebrew operates is seen within the languages of the Bantu people. And we know that the Bible was written first, or at least comprised first from people that were Hebrew-speaking people, because today we have a Hebrew language. We have a people that are coined the Hebrew people or the Shemitic people. And so we are the Shemitic, we are the people that are descendants from Shem and Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, the Hebrews. Yeah.
Wow. So basically you're saying that these 12 tribes we're reading about in the Bible, that's actually us.
Yeah.
So then how do you explain, because some of the stuff is not really correlating with African culture, like the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
You know, things like that.
Yeah. Well, honestly, there's actually people in the Congo and Nigeria and other countries that will say that we already knew the concept of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and they'll break it down, like, you know, Chi, Neke, Ke, or Chineke in the Igbo language. They'll break these down and they'll give you a story in some kind of village or forest, and they'll talk about how their ancestors talked about going into a forest, and you have to get the special tree or a special plant, and the plant has to be divided into three, and you put the plant in some kind of bowl and you do something with it, and each part of the plant represents this and that, which represents the creator, represents what they call will be the sun and the spirit, or the life force, because I think chi in the Igbo language correlates to life and the spirit, and so we have to remember that when we look at things in the New Testament, we have to understand, like, you know, when Jesus says, "I knock, I'm at the door, let me in." When you look at the fact that in the Old Testament that they had to bathe in a body of water, like a river or a lake, free flowing, to be purified. You see this still practiced in Africa. You see that in the Old Testament, people will have to sacrifice a goat or a lamb or a bull, and sometimes they would sprinkle the blood on the altar. And sometimes a lot of these shrines and altars, they would have them in the high places, like in the hills and the mountains. You would see things to where when somebody dies, that the people would shave their head off in the Bible, and they had a period of mourning. If somebody died in the family, it's not like everybody can just touch the body and do the funeral processions. You had to get a certain person to do these things, and then the people in the house that were a part of death in the family, they had to be cleansed before they can go back to the village. This is in the Bible, so it's not like in America where, you know, people die, you know, send them away to the morgue and then they have a funeral. There was a process of cleansing and purification that the Israelites had to do when somebody died, and even if they died in another land, they had to bring the body back to their homeland. And so when you look at a lot of the things that Jesus's ancestors grew up in, you could understand why. You know, when you look at Christianity and you see a white Jesus and you see them having communion, you see him dying on the cross, and everything that happens in the New Testament, you look at that like, oh, how is that African culture? How does that have to do anything with us? But it's because of the imagery and the narrative that they painted. We have to understand that the New Testament, they're not going to give us a New Testament written in ancient Hebrew or Bantu languages. The New Testament was compiled and mass distributed mostly in Greek and Latin and English. So they had the ability to change certain things. They had the ability to take out words that, you know, they wanted to and put words that they wanted to in. And, you know, these are the things that we unfortunately have to get past, because at the end of the day, who's going to do the research and determine if the land that the Bible talks about, the Israelites are supposed to have their boundary, and it says the Red Sea, but then in the Greek, it was the river of reeds, or in the Hebrew, it was the river of reeds. And you see in your English Bible, you see the Red Sea. and you go search the Red Sea, and the Red Sea has no reeds, no papyrus leaves, no leaves or papyrus leaves growing along the banks or the ocean line or the shores of the Red Sea. The Red Sea is very hot. It's very saline, so it's a high concentration of salt, and therefore no greenery or no reeds grows along the Red Sea. But then when you look at the Hebrew, it says the sea or large body or river of reeds. When you go along the Nile River, which is a freshwater river system in the Congo River, you see reeds growing all along the banks of the Nile River, going into Uganda and in various tributaries and basins that connect the Congo River to other river systems like the Zambezi and the Nile and the Niger and all these different things. So we don't pick up on these changes, but in my research, I have studied these things and I have seen, well, why is the word unicorn in our Bible in English, but then in the Greek it's rhinoceros? Where the word wild ass come from? We have an ass, which is a donkey. We know a donkey can be domesticated, so it's not wild. But then we have something called a wild ass. What's a wild ass? So you start researching these things. Oh, a wild ass is a zebra. And you have a mixture between a zebra and a donkey, which they might call a wild ass, but the wild ass still has stripes on its legs and on its tail. So it's a hybrid. It's a hybrid animal. But they know, the Greeks knew, that at the end of the day, the wild ass that you can't control, that makes a bray sound, which horses and zebras do, and runs swift as the wind, they're not talking about a donkey, because a donkey don't run as swift as the wind. The Bible says that the wild ass runs swift as the wind. Zebras run swift as the wind, and they cannot be domesticated. They're wild. So then you look at it, okay, well, I see a bullock, I see a bull, I see a wild bull. A bull is what you need to impregnate a cow so you can have children. So we understand these things and we say, well, what's a wild bull? What's a wild bull? And you start to research, you say, a wild bull is an African buffalo. And you see, well, King Solomon, he needed ivory tusk. And it always says ivory or ivory tusk in the Bible. Well, where did he get ivory from? Elephants. Are elephants in Israel right now? The answer is no. The lion, Daniel in the lion's den. Goliath, he killed a lion with his bare hands. Goliath was in the land of Canaan in Philistine when he killed the lion with his bare hands. Lions are top apex predators. They kill the wildebeest, they kill zebras, they kill large animals, even giraffes. They don't run that fast, but they kill large, big animals. So where are the lions in Israel? Leopards. The Bible says, how can an Ethiopian change his skin, just like how can a leopard change his spots? Well, the land of the lions and the leopards, if you can find them together, is in Central Africa, in the forest, in the savannah and in the forest. So we got lions and leopards in the trees, leopards in the savannah, lions in the forest, lions in the savannah. You have the forest elephant and the savannah elephant in the Congo and in South Africa and the South African countries. And so all these things we have to start to unpack and get past the barriers and the deception that the Europeans have put on us to not connect this Bible to its original origin and source, which is the Bantu people's oral history. It's only because we believe that in the Bible it says that the Israelites left Egypt and they went into the land of Canaan, aka Israel, that we say, oh, well, that's way up there. We're down here. But the Bible says that the land of Canaan, or the land of Israel, was the glory of all the lands, the glory of all the lands on planet Earth. It said that in this land that the Israelites would lack nothing. They wouldn't need anything because the land has everything it needs. Remember, the land of Canaan is the land of milk and honey. It has silver, gold, copper, iron, tin. All these minerals are in the ground. It has mountains, valleys, hills, streams, springs from underground, rain from the heavens. When you look at Africa, Africa has mountains, hills, valleys. It has rivers, streams, springs below, and water from above. It has silver, gold, tin, manganese, asphalt, granite, cobalt. All these things are in the mountains, in the grounds of Africa. It's not in Israel, because if all this was in Israel, why would Israel come to Africa to mine? Why would they come to Africa to colonize and to get into agriculture and this and that? So there's a lot of things that we have to unpack when we are looking at the Bible and we see Jesus of Nazareth, Bethlehem, the land of Canaan, the land of milk and honey, Israel, the Israelites, all these things. We have to start to kind of like do a reverse type of engineering of the Bible and see how it connects to us, because it does connect to us, and they don't want us to know our true identity.
You know, there's like areas in South Africa, like Bethlehem and
Yes.
So we've always wondered, Guti, is this the real one or whatever? You know, we once had a guest here who said that is the real Bethlehem. And so what does that mean then?
Well, somebody named it Bethlehem. And I think I've seen Jericho. I've seen Benoni. When I drove to Benoni, I asked the lady, she was Shona from Zimbabwe. I said, how do you spell Benoni? And she spelled it. I said, this is in the Bible. This is the name that Jacob's wife gave his son, which in the Bible it says Benjamin. Benjamin's name was really Benoni, and then it said Benjamin. And I'm like, what? I'm like, wait a minute here. It's something. I'm looking at these words I'm seeing on the signs driving in Africa. And I'm saying, well, who named it this? Was it the Dutch? Was it the British? Who the Indians, or who did this? You know, because I don't think the Bantu people, because see, Bethlehem, Benoni, Jericho, Nazareth, all these names, they're in our English Bible, but the Bantu people don't speak English. The Hebrew word for Benjamin is not Benjamin. And so when you look at these things, you have to wonder, well, were they giving us secret clues that we're not picking up on? And you see this, you see these same names in other areas of Africa. You'll see it on the maps that the Portuguese and the French and the Dutch did, like these ancient maps from the 14, 15, 1600s that they'll label like biblical names, and they'll say land of the Jews. Like they actually got maps written by Venetian, Italian explorers that list South Africa as the land of the Jews. And I'm showing people in South Africa, hey, look at this map from the 1500s. This man, he was from Italy, and he was an explorer. This word right here means Jews. This word right here means land of the Jews. And I said, you know how I know this? Let's go to Google Translate, and I put it in there, and I put Latin to English, and then it showed him land of, and then I put the other word in, and it said Jews. And I said, this is on the map. This is South Africa, right? He said, yes. I said, so the Italians knew that this is the land of the Jews. White people? No, because when the British and the Dutch got here, the Ashkenazi and the Sephardic Jews weren't here. They weren't just indigenous. They weren't indigenous people living in South Africa. So when the Dutch and the British got here, oh, look at all these Jews here, these white Jews. No, the land of the Jews is the land of the Bantu people. They knew this. They knew this all along, and they knew when they did the map, the old maps, when they went to the Congo, they knew that the kingdom of the Congo comprised of 12 khandas, Kandas. So 12 khandas were ruled by one king, which is called the Mani Congo, Manikongo, Mani Congo. He was the ruler over 12 territories or districts. So the kingdom of the Congo, which consisted of Cameroon and Gabon and Angola and Zambia and all these different areas, CAR, that was a large area that existed before the Portuguese and the Belgium got there. And when they got there, they knew that these khandas, like Wakanda, were all under one king, and that the people of the Congo already had a knowledge of the Creator, and that they are connected to the God of Israel. And they also knew about the son of God. When you look at the story of Kempa Vita and how she was executed and massacred, and Simon Kimbangu and Simon Toko, and a lot of things that's going on in the Congo that the Catholic Church wanted to just hush and kill everybody and erase everything, take things away, defame certain things that are on rocks, because they want to cover up the truth of what lies in Africa. And this is what they do. They come in, they rename places, they go into caves, and they start defaming certain things, so that you can't look at certain things and say, these inscriptions on rocks in the Congo are ancient Hebrew. They've actually found ancient Hebrew on rocks inside the caves in the Congo. Hebrew that was written by the Israelites before Moses even took them out of Egypt. They found it in the Congo. And they don't want people to know these things, because they know that 4,000, 3,000 years have passed, and we still are not trying to connect ourselves to our true identity, which is the Israelites. Because of the colonizers have screwed everything up, and they've divided us, and they know that when you're a house that's divided, that you can't stand, and other nations can come in and they can rule over you by simple divide and conquer strategies.
So let's go into your film now, and because this is where a bulk of this information you've been giving us is in the film.
Yes, it is.
So tell us the journey a little bit. I know that it's literally been banned, and you are not allowed to be on YouTube and other platforms because of the messaging that you've got. So do you want to break that down for us?
So look, the movie took 3 years to make, and I had never done films before, but after writing books, black pastors would say, well, how long is your book? And I say 700 pages. Oh, black people ain't gonna read that. You know, the pastor said, black people ain't gonna read a 700-page book. You're gonna have to do like a video or a movie. And I said, really? He said yes. Yeah. And so then I said, okay. And I started to try to put together how I would make a movie. And it was hard, but I found one editor, because I had asked colleges that deal with students that learn media arts and editing and photography and videography. I went to different colleges in America to get people to help me make this movie, and I was going to pay them. And so all the companies that called me, they were white owned. They said, oh yeah, sure. How much? What's your budget? And I said, this is my budget. They said, okay. Then they got back with me and said, we know what your movie is about, and because of that, we cannot do this with you. And so I basically found one black guy in Detroit that said, yeah, I'll help you make the movie, because all the other races, editors, videographers, they said no. Even when I published the book Hebrews to Negroes, when I was trying to get it published, all the book publishing companies, even if they had a black person on the front, they said, oh yeah, we could publish it. And they'll go back to a corporate and they will say, oh yeah, the Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up Black America. They said no. And so I had to find a black publisher that agreed to publish the book. Same thing, black editor to edit the movie. When the movie came out in 2018, we premiered it at a theater in Michigan, and the whole theater was packed. 500 people. People were standing in the back because they wanted to see the movie. They didn't care if they didn't have a seat. The people that owned the theater, white people, those that worked in the concession stand, those that were managers, those that were supposed to be running the projector, they seen so many black people in that theater all at once, and they said, "Wow!" And they came into the theater and stood there. They didn't stand there and after 3 minutes walk out and go do their job. They stood in there and they stayed in there. And I said, well, who's manning the concession stand? Who's manning the projector? They were like, oh, it's good. Don't worry, we got somebody. They were in there watching it, and they were like, this is a good movie. This is a good movie. And so I was in and out of the theater, and as I was outside of the theater, people were coming out of the theater crying. Young people and old. There were some people they were hyperventilating, and I said, "You okay? Is everything okay?" And she says, "You know, I never thought in my lifetime that I would see a movie that tells us who we are and not just descendants of slaves." And the older people that came out in their 70s and 80s, they were walking out doing this. And I said to one guy, I said, "Is everything okay?" He says, "Yes." He says, "My grandfather was a slave," and he said that, "I'm so glad that you did this movie." He said that, "I never thought I would live to see a movie like this, because all we know is that we are descendants of slaves. Our parents, they didn't have an identity. Their last name was the last name of their slave master. So their surname was the last name of their slave master, and they were counted on the roster just as the chickens and the goats and the cows. They were livestock, human livestock." And he says this movie was well done, and he said that this movie is going to be essential for our youth to understand and grasp, because we don't have an identity here in America. We speak English. We don't know any other language. And so since the movie came out in 2018, there have been theaters that have declined to allow the screen in America. And they will give you the reason why. They know they would say that the movie has a religious, political, social component that has the potential to cause a revolution or uprising. And they gave the factors of why this movie, they're not going to allow people to see it, because they understand the magnitude of the message in the movie, and you cannot let the masses, including whites and other races, get a hold to this truth, because it's going to start to spread like wildfire. And so what happened was, in 2022, last year, a famous basketball player for the Brooklyn Nets, the NBA, named Kyrie Irving, he posted a link on Twitter to the Hebrews to Negroes movie. That's all he did, was post the link. Boop. He didn't text anything. He didn't say anything. He just posted the link that people can click on, and then it'll take them to Amazon. When he did that, immediately, they didn't talk about COVID or Ukraine, Russia, or any other news. All the news media companies like the Rolling Stones, the New Yorker, the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, CNN, Fox 2 News, all these platforms, they were all reporting what he did, saying that he's anti-Semitic. Nike canceled their deal with him. He had a $10 million deal with Nike. They just said, "You're done." Same thing with Kanye West and Adidas. They suspended him. They said that he had to apologize. He had to meet with the rabbis. He had to donate $500,000 to the Jewish community. He had to get sensitivity training. They had a checklist for him to do in order to get back to playing in the NBA as the second most famous player in the NBA other than LeBron James. Because at the time they were teammates. And when he did that, everybody in America started to say, "What's this movie that the Jews and the Europeans are so angry about? Why are they trying to get this movie banned from Amazon? Why are they trying to get his books removed from Amazon?" Because they had already went to Walmart. Walmart owns Macro and Game and other things here in South Africa. So the book was on Walmart. The book was on Target. The book was on Barnes and Nobles, and they were successfully took those books down from these platforms. So the only platform left that they had to take care of was Amazon. And so Jewish people in America, they all signed petitions to have Amazon and the CEO take the movie and the book down, because they said that anytime you go to Amazon and you type in Hebrew, a Jewish person can type in Hebrew, it's going to be Hebrews to Negroes. And so the Amazon CEO said, no, we can't just take a movie down the book because you guys don't like it, because there's books on Amazon about like Adolf Hitler has a book on Amazon called Mein Kampf. It's still there. There's books on Amazon written by white people and Jews that say black people are monkeys. Black people are no different than an animal. Black people are intelligent. Black people don't have the ability to govern themselves. There's books on Amazon that actually has this in their books, and they're selling on Amazon. So the Amazon CEO said, no. If we do this, that's a slippery slope that we're going down, and we could be hit with all types of lawsuits. Even though black people We don't protest when there's anti-black movies that cause us a lot of psychological and mental harm, because nobody likes to see movies year after year about slavery and black people tied up to a pole and being whipped with a whip, or being hung from a tree, or being burnt at a stake on fire. Nobody wants to see these things. Nobody wants to see movies where the white man takes this man's wife and says, "Come with me into the house," and he rapes her, and then he sends her out on the field to go work after he didn't rape this man's wife, and now the wife is looking, all sad, and the husband is looking like shaking his head, and nobody likes to see these things, because these things mentally play with our emotions, because it makes us feel like we are nothing in America. Like all you get shown on TV, like you said, is the ratchetness, the chicken heads, the twerking, the loudness, the cussing, the fighting, the smoking marijuana, the drugs, the overdose, the going to jail, the stealing. We see all the negative things about black people, and this is what we see. So we almost emulate what we see, because we think that's what we're supposed to do. So we never see anything great, anything positive. In the moment that something comes out on the movie screen, that people can say, now we're getting into some truth or some history about us that nobody ever told us. And when Kyrie Irving did that, he has millions and millions of followers. They were like, but we cannot allow this to continue. We had to figure out a way to get him to apologize, either get him to apologize, get him back in the NBA, take the movie down, do whatever we got to do to stop this. So at this time, my YouTube page had gotten a lot of views. So my last 2 videos that I had before they shut the channel down, it had a half 1,000,000 views in less than a week. So every video I would post on Amazon, on YouTube, would get 500,000 views during this time. And during this time, I had contacted somebody that knew Kanye West, his PR person, and so I called her, and she says yes, and she said, "Who is this?" I said, "This is Ronald Dalton, the creator and filmmaker who made Hebrews to Negroes, Wake Up Black America, that Kyrie Irving is getting in trouble with." And she says, "Okay, I got a meeting in 10 minutes. Is there something that you want me to say?" Well, she said, "Well," I said, I want to send Kanye West the movies and the books." And she says, "Oh, he already has them, so you don't have to send them." I said, "Oh, really?" And she says, "Yes." But she says, "Is there anything you would like me to relay to Kanye West?" And I said, "Yes." And I told her what I wanted to relay to him. And she says, she said, "Okay, I'll let him know. But yes, he has your books, he has your movies, he knows about them. Same way Kyrie Irving found out about my movie and my books." And so celebrities in America, they know about Hebrews to Negroes. It just took one guy to have the courage to post a link, and then of course when that happened, all hell came down on him, as if nothing else in the world mattered at that time. And as adults in America, we are not allowed to actually watch a movie and come up with our own conclusion if we think it's garbage, if we think it's the truth, because at the end of the day, we're not kids. You can't tell, cover your eyes, cover your mouth, you can't watch this, son, because it's rated R. No, we're adults. So if it's a movie, let them see it. If you don't like it, then oh well, you don't like it. There's a lot of things I don't like that I see on TV or movies, but we still have to see it. And if we catch these things and our kids are with us, we just cover their eyes, or we tell them to leave the room, or we fast forward it because they don't need to be exposed to that, because we're parents to our children. But as grown up adults, which Kyrie Irving was posting in the movie, is not rated R. It's not nudity and graphic language and violence and all the terrorism, and it's not promoting any
good content for
good content
for black people.
It's a documentary based on information, facts, and research. It's not fiction. It's real. And this alone was the controversy that was going on last year in America, which caused the FBI and the ADL, which is the Anti-Defamation League, and other Jewish communities to all come together to put together programs to how they can prevent this from happening again, and how they can silence the Hebrews to Negroes push and talk in the media in America. And so that happened in America. It trickled to Europe. for like a little bit. People in Europe are like what's this? But they didn't get it like America got it. So people in Africa, when this happened, some people from Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, Gambia, Tanzania, South Africa, DJ Spoo, he said that he heard about it, he found out about it, and actually, there are some South Africans that actually knew about what happened from America, and they have actually seen me here in South Africa, and said, "Hey, is that Ron Dalton?" Like, yeah, that's Ron Dalton. Wow, you're here. Like, yeah, I'm here. What are you doing here? Showing a movie here, and they're surprised because they see me even last year. Last year was COVID, and I was here, and I had my mask on. And I was at Super Spar in Broad Acres. Super Spar, it's like a grocery store. And I was checking out, and the lady, she said, "Don't I know you?" She said, "Don't I know you from somewhere?" And I said, "No." And she says, and I had a mask on. And she says, "Are you Ronald Dalton?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "You the one that made Hebrews and Negroes?" I said, "Yes." She says, "I'll follow you on YouTube." And she started telling all her friends, and they all came around and said, Remember I told you about this guy? This is him right here." And she was saying, everybody needs to see this movie and read this books because this is the truth, and we need to find this out. And so this is something that needs to hit Africa. It needs to hit Africa. But as you know, I mean, YouTube, there's censorship. There's cancel culture. There's algorithms that they use to determine what they allow and what they don't allow. And unfortunately, even in Africa, we have the gatekeepers.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we only booked an hour, and I could sit here for 5 hours with you. Thank you so much, Ron.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where we're going to premiere the movie now, and I'm going to have to be very careful about how I title this episode, because I do want your message to be out there, and I do want your voice to be heard. Yeah. But I just wanted to thank you so much for taking the time to come and share your energy and your knowledge with us. And we're definitely going to be supporting the movie and definitely using our social media networks to make sure that we spread the word. It is highly important for the diaspora and the Africans to finally be able to talk.
And they could, and no matter what people happens, if they go to my website, which is www.thenegronetwork.com, THENEGRO network.com. This is where I put all the information on movie screenings, dates, locations, times, how to buy tickets. So at the end of the day, if anything happens where we got to change up something because of something happened, then if you go to that website, thenegronetwork.com, you can find out, okay, where is this going to be at? Is it going to be shown in Soweto? Is it going to be shown here, June, May on Amazon? This is where you go to find out how you can connect with the Hebrews to Negroes message, so that you're not left in the dark because you didn't get the flyer, you didn't see the podcast, you didn't see the YouTube video because they took it down, or you just can't find it in the algorithm search. So this is where you need to go. Because we're here, we're not stopping.
Thank you. I'll definitely have that information available for the people.
Okay, thanks.
Moya writes, I'll put all the information in the description box so that you can follow the information. It's so unfortunate that we can't be African and be ourselves. But thank you so much for supporting the channel. Remember to like, subscribe, and to share. And remember the Moya hikes. And then I'll give you more details about the film. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll see you again next time. Moya ulight, Moya upright.
Who are you when all you were has been diluted by lies and white lines, cancelling out all that which has been written of your history? Why do you look at yourself as a mystery? Doesn't the sun shine because you open your eyes? Doesn't the moon stay situated within the same stars your DNA sparkles off? Your spirit knows that surely corner into e off. Buza umoya so you may return to being well off. Because spiritually you are rich, yet your ancestors cry because you are out of reach. But yours is to command all elements while God takes inspiration from the very mirror she looked at to become. Remember who you are and never finish just when they think that with you they are done.